So it's letting me get away with another one. So what I meant to say is that so I think that so you're so group so conflict is part of nature, violence is part of nature, trauma is part of nature, rivalry is part of nature, and diversity is part of nature, both within groups and people. And so that might actually that's part of what keeps life viable. But what ratchets it up in modern times, in modern context, is our modern economic reality, but especially our representative currency and representative leadership. Some people could speak more elaborately upon some of the realities about what it means to have representative leadership. Maybe in old times, that would be like an example. That would be like chieftain, like a chief. So chief knows what's best, and chief is sending us off to get jacked up in something according to chief, because chief knows best. Now, modern times, that would be like your politician. So I've never heard of you. I don't know you from anything, but you're such an outstanding person according to what you've done for a living for a few years or decades. Just like I've had to do things for a living, just like other people have had to do things for a living. Some people have done more glamorous things, more favorable things, more comfortable things, more egregious things, more challenging things, more daunting things, more sacrificing things, but everyone has had to do something to exist. But yet you had to do something that is so outstanding, that you know what's best for yourself and me and everyone else. So now you're our representative. That's very problematic on a lot of levels, but it's also maybe unavoidable, because even if you didn't have that and you were just going, because they say that more so anything is more profound if you appreciate it on a local level. So you could also say your whatever group you're within, be it your family or your friends or your community, what's happening at the local level is yet significant. More so than being concerned, being aware of what's happening locally. Maybe you can work with that more and understand your situation more than if you fixate on what's happening broader. But even within local, you're still going to have rank, because human beings are always going to rank off and form pecking orders and hierarchies. So within that, you're going to have yet some form of leadership, and therefore representation. And then they're going to have, at some point, you're going to come into contact with other groups, which come into contact with other groups. So larger implications are yet invoked. Try as we may, we could maybe say representative leadership is invoked, try as we may, and even to a degree representative currency is invoked, try as we may. But a lot of it is very problematic, and it gets away from what is really reality and is what is in anyone's best interest. All three of those can. But I would say that maybe the strongest avenue we have is to approach what it would mean to be closer to nature and what we've come from. And that would be, I think we would have to be exchanging value to have any kind of stability or peace or viability. You need exchange and collaboration. So you would be yet exchanging value in nature and resources. But the more significant, I think, would be bartering, because you can a lot of times you can feel what's a deal and what's not a deal, and you can sense what's a deal and what's not a deal. And if you feel good about what you have, and it had been some form of value that was exchanged, you can work with what you've had. But in our society with the gaming and numbers, a lot of times you give up some form of value, whether that was your labor or your just the numbers in your bank account, these placeholders in your bank account that yet can serve you. And then you have the reality. So you would say we're out of nature now, but you still have some of the same brutalities as nature, such as these people that I see destitute and starving on college campuses, adults starving near college campuses, while there's a lot of opulence and fun to be had, and delicious experiences to be had. You have some of the brutalities of nature, the same brutality that you would have at any point of nature. But I think that you have those realities, but then you have some of these numbers in these numbers gaming, and the fiat and the capitalism and the usury and then some of the marginalization and the redlining of not only housing but opportunities and work. And you have people being displaced. Even you land into a work of some kind, like a professional work like I have, and you may not have the social support that you need to exist, because we need friends, we need family, we need lovers, we need respect, we need all that to exist anywhere, anyhow, including in some of these professional settings. And some marginal people like us that survive somehow and make it through the cracks by the skin of our teeth, by what honesty and decency we had, and initiative and work ethic and maybe ability, we can yet be displaced even from and unseated from positions that we were never intended to have, according to the mores of the dominant status quo. so that it's not viable because we simply don't have the social and economic support we need to exist within some of these roles. So within that, these numbers that we have in our bank account may be the only thing between us and having our backside on the pavement, but yet. And then also that can inform some of your group rivalries and conflicts, the coercion of that, the advantage of that, the self-interest of that, to skew what would have been the natural rivalries, conflict, and violence to an even more ratcheted degree according to that. And I think that's what a lot of people discover when they reach the higher tiers of whether it be street or military or law enforcement. You reach the higher tiers and you see what the real racket is about, what the real gaming is about. And it's a lot of the nationalism and the value and the identity, yet it serves the self-interest, because it's and I was saying that might be what is even more brutal as our violence that happens, at least in the West, upon group dynamics. The deeper violence is the social violence, the economic violence, the disenfranchisement, the deprivation, social deprivation, economic deprivation, which is social deprivation. All of that, according to the gaming of especially the numbers, because numbers can be, you can say anything and do anything with numbers, especially get over on someone. But what would have been the closest approach to a natural, our viability of stability or equity? So I'm saying inequity is what the problem is, whether you're talking about street, military, law enforcement, civilian, inequity is what the problem is and what the real violence is. And that's why even when they say when Martin Luther King was he was talking about integration upon social lines, as far as living and socializing and maybe even spending money with integration. But then he started to talk about the economic reality, and then on top of that, he was tying the struggle of American struggle, which is not limited to black people, white people also in America, all people in America. You tie that to what was going on overseas at that time. That's a real shared interest. And you're talking about economic you talk on economic terms like that, and that's what even Martin Luther King, as graceful and eloquent as he was, he wouldn't be tolerated for that in the United States then, and likely also now. But and that's what but all I'm saying is the closest thing we have to so we're not getting away from sharing value. We're not getting away from representative politics, representative leadership. We're not getting away from rivalry, group dynamics, any of that. But what the closest thing I think we would have had to anything that flies would be bartering, and that's also going to be at the individual level. So you're not going to have probably complete honesty or dishonesty with human beings whatsoever at any point. But the closest that we can have would be bartering. So the coolest thing I ever got was like that shawl that homeless man gave me, little stuff like that, real stuff like that. And that's what it would have been in nature, like when we had value for the women and children, and we were surviving. We probably would have been having whatever peace we would have managed. It wouldn't be upon national lines, solidarity, like I was trying to show that brother, solidarity with the fist pump at doing deliveries. It wouldn't have been any of that. It would have been bartering. You could appreciate that as leverage now. They might call that leverage now. And your only viability with anyone, even in dating, even in loving, is bartering. Is a leverage. How soon can I walk away from you and not miss you? Is the real power with someone, according to a lot of people. And it's kind of unfortunate, but that's I shouldn't say it's unfortunate, but that's just really what it is. And but then you take that outside of love and just dealing with people, and it's more so bartering. That's what the real leverage is, and that's also what the real equity, if anything, is bartering. And so what's more from the heart? Like anytime you give someone representative money, you give someone cash, you give some money. Like sometimes I play music and someone will give me a tip. There's something that doesn't feel, there's something, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth to give anyone cash, however well-meaning you are. Even like a person that on the street that may be homeless, you give them cash, and the cash is simply corrupt, so it doesn't feel good to give cash. It feels good to get cash only, I think, for all people. But you give them something real, like you give them food, or you give them like clothing, or you give something that we would have been bartering for in nature, and that does feel good to give somebody something like that, and I think that might do them better. So, but also with all I'll land it on with the rivalry, and that you do yet need rivalry and representation within rivalry. So I think that's why sports are so cool, because in the old times they would let the greatest warriors duke it out and for the whole group, and that would be like your gladiators and your sports, and we can settle it right then and there. But it doesn't have to be like that now. But that's why sports are so cool, because it's like representative rivalry, and you're settling that upon sports productive